Swinburne University of Technology.
My name's Dr. Carolyn Barnes and I'm Academic Director of Research Training in the School of Design and the Centre for Design Innovation at Swinburne University of Technology. Today I'm going to be discussing the contemporary PhD with my PhD student, Emily Ballentyne Brodie. Hi Emily.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Would you like to discuss your project and maybe give us some information on why you decided to do a PhD?
Sure. So it all started, I think, well, back when I was doing my Masters. There's a real in environment and sustainability, and I was looking at a lot of problems around sustainability. It was more sort of social science-based ideas, and always looking for the solutions and how we could design solutions. And design became this really interesting area of personal research to me. And from a more entrepreneurial point of view, I actually just started to design projects in the city.
But this is, can I just interrupt you for a minute there? Because this is interesting, because you didn't particularly come from a design background, did you?
No.
But you came to design as a practice.
Yes.
A practice based around social innovation.
Yes.
Do you want to?
So I'm not actually trained in design. There you go, and I'm doing a doctorate in design. How disruptive is that? But because design, I see, is a way to evolve things and create solutions. So I did a lot of research, personal research, and there was a lot of international designers from DESIS network, which I believe you set up in Melbourne.
I did help set up the DESIS network in Melbourne. That's designed for environmental and social sustainability and innovation. So it's an international association of designers and design educators who do projects which are about creating social good. And ironically, we were both part of this network, but we hadn't met at that point, had we?
Exactly. And so there's a real interdisciplinary approach there, and design is seen as this amazing discipline to create change in the world, not just to design tables or chairs or fashion or whatever it may be. So that's where, to me, this was this breakthrough way to help communities and organisations and groups of people to solve problems. And so the particular area of interest to me is food, and so that's where I think these case studies that I've actually will be doing for the PhD are actually the work that I've been doing on the ground. So I'm reflecting on the work that I've been doing through my PhD research, and that's sort of how it evolved. I decided that, well, after the implementation of these projects and then further work, I think it's time to come and reflect on that work to actually make it more valuable. I think there's some kind of reflection and evaluation and more in-depth research into these case studies adds value to the field of how design can work in communities and councils and to design local food systems.
And so I think we've talked before about the fact that there's a lot of work on the ground, but there's very little theorisation of. There's a lot of discussion about the problems in local food systems. So the problems are known. There's a lot of work on the ground, but there's not a lot of knowledge production around how to actually make change.
Exactly. So the food systems design field is unknown. But there are people designing local food systems, but it's very sort of spread out, not organised. There's no formal field for this area. And let's think about this. This is our food system. This is something which is so important to the way our society operates, and it's run by monopoly supermarkets. And
big multinational companies as well.
Exactly. So, and local food systems aren't even there's no organisation around it, and it's so integral to people's health and well-being, and I think the future of local economies even. That's where I'm sort of heading at the moment in the research, as you know.
Yes, I do, yeah.
So that's why, the point is, this PhD is very much about something where I'm wanting to create change through this. This is a vehicle to create change. This is a vehicle to learn and reflect on the work. But then hopefully I'm hoping that this PhD is published in a really accessible format. I do some kind of blog to, share the findings, and these findings can also, I involve the people that I work with in the case study research. So there's an opportunity for them to learn more about the projects that have implemented too. So it's...
And what was involved, yes. What was involved in their experience and their involvement in the project. And this is, so you came with this, you came to PhD study wanting to understand more about what was going on in these projects, and then to create knowledge so that they could be disseminated. But you've got some, you're in the middle of your candidature now, so you're really at the full-on data gathering stage.
That's right.
And we've been talking a lot about how you are going to gather that data, and we've come up with some fairly deeply philosophical positions about how that data will be gathered, because as you said before, you really don't want to, you don't have a sense of going in there and extracting information from people. You've already been involved with these people. We should talk in a minute about what your projects are, but you've already been working with communities, and you don't necessarily want to go in there and extract information. So you've been really thinking about what sort of processes can I develop in trying to understand what happened in these projects. So the projects will be taken as cases, and you need to develop data. You need to create data around those cases so that you can, tell the story of what happened. But you really want to make that a very sort of participatory and sharing process with the people who are also part of the projects, the stakeholders. So you've got this idea of conviviality, and because the project's around food, you've actually been thinking of coming together over food as the basis of the data gathering. So instead of doing like formal interviews or focus groups, it'll be around things convivial. Like convivial morning teas or lunches.
So convivial means to come together in a joyous occasion around food, the beautiful Italian slow food way.
Yes.
So this is a way to be honest, I think that this is I hope the people that are listening to this, we're having a kind of, we don't have food, but we're having a conversation. So people that are listening to this can extract information, and it's conversational, and it's probably quite more valuable like that rather than being some kind of really formal structured thing. So likewise with this research that I'm doing, it's about the people that I'm working with, having lunches, having coffees, having convivial sessions, and that's how I learn. That's how I gain insight from them, and that's how I gather my data. And
that they get something out of the experience too, and they have a role. They're stakeholders in the research almost. And I think the thing we should probably explain what your projects are, because they're looking at local food systems in communities where food and the community as a whole has really it's pivotal, and it's had a lot of problems. So do you want to explain what the two cases are?
Okay, so locally based around Melbourne, we've got Shepparton. So Shepparton, regional Victoria, where SPC is based, where everyone might have heard about the Coca-Cola Amatil owning SPC now. It started off
was a historical co-op food preserving company owned by growers, wasn't it?
That's correct. And now a multinational company owns it. And there's some very interesting things happening there, where there has been government bailout because there was so much there was so much problem. The company was going down. They weren't buying local food from the farmers. They're importing cheap imports, and I believe that is still happening quite a lot. So Goulburn Valley juices, if you look, it does actually have imported and local products. So we don't know exactly what's local, but there is some big issues there. And so the government bailout has happened. But I believe that there's a lot of efficiency in technology where that money's going. I'm not sure how much is being invested into the community and the farmers in the long run. So
your project was developing a local food hub.
Yes.
So that the whole food system of the area could be sustainable.
That's
and
correct.
That farmers could grow food that could be locally consumed and people would have access to that.
It's a place based next to Kidstown, but it's also the food hub, the Shepparton Food Hub, which you can Google and find out about, was developed in partnership with the council and many different people in the community. That is also connected to an overall system change where we co-designed solutions like a local festival, a peach festival. At the time they dumped 20 tonne of peaches. Can you imagine 20 tonne of peaches when we were co-designing that Shepparton Food Hub.
So this is to find a place for for food that would otherwise just be ruined, spoiled, thrown
and it's
away.
To reimagine, honestly, there's no revisioning of something new. And so design was helping that for people to think of the local food system because they're so reliant on SPC. So
a sort of industrialised food system. So design came into the process in order to enable everyday people and everyday farmers to reconnect with each other.
What needs to happen is a lot more of that in Shepparton. And so this PhD is fantastic. We go back in, we reflect on the whole process, we gather more information, which hopefully can really add value to that community, to maybe for that community to invest more in design-led approaches and entrepreneurial approaches for that town. So that's the hopes for this PhD.
And you've got a finding, you've got an interim finding, haven't you? Because what you're thinking is that government funding and local government involvement isn't really enough. No. Community involvement is enough. A key ingredient is entrepreneurial people who can move things forward. So when the funding runs out, often there's just a fall off cliff. And that's the project struggles and nothing develops from it.
That's it. So entrepreneurial people in Shepparton, and which there are, so Richard Pratt is from Shepparton, there's a lot of entrepreneurial people there. That's a fantastic opportunity. There's so much business opportunity and for them in a sense to localise their food system. There's just a lot of creative energy needs to go into creating that. So the other case study, Dandenong. So Dandenong is Metropolitan Melbourne, completely different system to Shepparton. It's got in Australia, it's the most multicultural place out of all of Australia, I think except for one place in Sydney. And so we're talking over 100 different nationalities of people living in this one place. So their food kind of diversity is immense. So we looked at we looked at, it was a strategy, a design-led strategy for that city, and so how they could pivot their whole entire economy around food.
Around food culture, around an ethnic food culture.
And also manufacturing.
And manufacturing. Because there's
and health. And so looking at urban agriculture and all those things, like a whole entire system around food. And it's one of Australia's first food strategies.
And so can you explain what's the role of design in that strategy?
So it was a design-led strategy.
A design-led strategy. So what do you like in these projects? What do you think what is the function of design? Because I mean, this is a research topic in its own right. Like, what is the role of design in these sorts of social innovation projects?
I think design is a very simple and neat way to organise ideas and to create a new vision, and then have sort of a rational way to implement that vision. So I think it helps lay people, everyone, whether you're the CEO of the company or the person from the community garden or whoever you are, and well, of course the person from the community garden could be the CEO of the company, we don't know, but it helps people vision. The role of design is that a lot of the time, I think we're not coming up with those creative solutions to innovate something new. It's just same old, same old. So design is this amazing discipline that enables people to come up with the creative ideas, but not only that, have a really organised and rational kind of way, steps to actually implement that. So we're talking about creative thinking and innovative action, and a lot of
maybe planning, visualising, prototyping, those sorts of activities, so that designers can maybe move in there and help a community to have an idea of what it is they want to do.
Exactly, and then so you prototype with communities, and then they can implement those projects that you've co-designed with them.
Okay, so they're your two projects, your two case studies.
Yes.
You're halfway through your PhD. Okay, well, thank you very much, Emily, for talking to us today, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to Emily's discussion about her PhD.
This has been a Swinburne production.